as my wife would say, lies, nothing but lies to try to cover up the wrong that you're doing. In other words, you keep digging, the good man keep digging a hole and going down deeper into the tunnel. After asking Uriah how was the battle going, David told the Hittite to go home. David sent a gift with him, hoping that it would massage or stimulate the visit. This idea behind this visit was that while Uriah was at his household, he would sleep with his wife Bathsheba, and therefore Uriah and others would think that the child to be belonged to him. But check this out. My man Uriah the soldier was a man of principle. He did not go back to his house. He remained at the palace and slept at the entrance to the castle among the king's guards. My second point comes from the same chapter. Verse 10 that says, when David heard that Uriah had not gone home, he summoned him and asked, what's the matter? Why didn't you go home last night after being away so long? When David learned of this, the following morning, hallelujah, he asked Uriah, man, you need to go to the house, man. Why didn't you go home? Uriah said to David, the ark and the soldiers of Israel and Judah are living in tents. The commander and the Lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go home to dine, drink wine, and make up for lost time with my wife? As surely as I'm alive today, I would not conduct myself in such a disrespectful manner. See, as a former soldier, you really don't want to come back home when the soldiers are out there, especially if you're a leader. It messes with you a little bit. You laying in the bed with your wife, hanging out, playing with your family, and all the soldiers out on gunnery or on a deployment, and you back in the rear with the gear. It tugs at you if you're really true to your profession. 2 Samuel, the 11th chapter, verses 12 and 13 is my final point. Well, David said, stay here today. David told him, and tomorrow you may return to the army. So Uriah stayed in Jerusalem that day and the next day. Then David, here we go, trying to cover down again, Pastor Maryland, invited him to dinner and got him drunk. But even then he could not get Uriah to go to his wife. Again, he slept at the palace entrance with the king's palace guards. Though Uriah had been granted a temporary pardon from the fighting by the king, he was a spot-on soldier. He remained focused on the mission. Uriah couldn't fathom panther himself or enjoying the pleasures while his band of brothers was fighting a good fight that needed to be won. David asked Uriah to stay one more day and to dine or have dinner with him and some drinks. David provided Uriah with a constant flow of alcohol, wine, and malt liquor. Uriah got drunk, but that night he still refused to return to his house to be with his spouse. Even drunk, Uriah maintained his honor as a soldier. David's conspiracy and strategy to make Uriah believe that the baby was his did not work. But the scheme, hallelujah, that he tried to do didn't work either. We try so many things to cover down on our mistakes instead of just repenting and say, I'm sorry, and get back on the right way. We're so busy worrying about our reputation. We're so busy worrying about our status and how we looked, and when we make a mistake, we try to cover it up over and over again. But David tried to cover it up so bad that he was a murderer. Now that's tough right there. He pretty much took my man's life to try to cover down on his lust for Bathsheba. Well, here we go. Then David turned to a more sinister plan, Sister Maria. David sent Uriah back to the fight, carrying an official letter, Pastor Marilyn, that instructed the commander to place Uriah where the fighting was the worst. In the Providence, where the fighting was the worst. In Afghanistan, where the fighting was the worst. In Iraq, where the fighting was the worst. Put them where the IEDs are going off every which way. Put them at the heat of the battle. Then pull back, leaving Uriah to die at the hands of the enemy. Joel followed the orders written in the letter, and Uriah the Hittite was killed. The news of Uriah's death made it to David. Then he sent a message to the commander and said, "Don't let this upset you. The sword devours one as well as another." 2 Samuel 11:26-27. When Uriah's wife, Bathsheba, heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. When the period of mourning was over, David sent for her and brought her to his palace, and she became one of his wives. In my closing, David had done what was right in the eyes of the Lord and had not failed to keep any of the Lord's command all the days of his life, except in the case of Uriah the Hittite. David's evil scheme against the honorable Uriah was a stain on his stellar status.